Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be making the Mini Magda Wristlet by Oro Rosa Patterns. I'm super excited to do this pattern. So let me show you real quickly what the Mini Magda looks like. It's such a cute little wristlet. So this one here I just made out of vinyl. The one that we are going to be making is going to be out of leather. So real quickly we'll go over the pieces. You're going to have your main panel pieces. So you're going to have your lining and your exterior. As I said, for mine I'm going to be doing leather. It's going to be interfaced. I interface mine with SewFuse Plus just because this leather is quite thick already. So just a little bit more structure will be just fine for this. So I have substituted the SewFuse Plus for the decovil light. For the linings, you don't have to interface, or I don't have to interface because I'm using a waterproof canvas. If you're using a cotton, you're going to want to use some kind of woven interfacing. So for my leathers, I did skive my edges, and I skived it about 3/8 of an inch. Same thing with my zipper panels. So I have my lining, and then I have my main. This is my wristlet strap. Because this leather was so thick, I did not want to have to fold because it is just going to be a pain. So what I did was I kept one the normal width, and this one I skived down so it won't be as thick. I can just sew this and then just trim it on the edges to even it up and make it the length that I need it. Your second or your last part is going to be your gusset. So I have my exterior and then I have my lining. You're also going to want a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch, depending on what size you want. I'm using 1/2 inch, so I have a swivel clasp and the D-ring. And also, this is optional, the your metal tag for your bags or your bag tag. So I have mine right here. And you're also going to want zipper tape. I have not chosen my zipper tape yet. More than likely it's going to be black. Probably going to be black and gunmetal. So you're going to want to have your number 5 zipper with that. And that is going to be, I believe, 7 inches. And I tend not to cut my zipper until I get to that part. So let's get started. So the first thing you're going to want to grab is your exterior lining pieces. I have already found my centers, but you're going to want to find your centers on your piece. So we're going to want to mark this down to about 2 3/4 of an inch. And really it's going to depend on how well you cut this. I probably added a little bit extra. I'm not the best at cutting a circle, but so mine is going to be just a little bit past, but as long as it's even on both sides, you'll be okay. So I'm just going to turn this around and measure out to make sure that it's even. And it is. So now you're going to want to do the same thing to your other side. And like I said, I've already found the centers on this. So let's go ahead and grab our tag, our metal tag, and we're going to add this on to our we're gonna add this to our main panel piece. So I'm going to add my tag. Let's see. I think I like it right about here. Really, you can put it wherever you want as long as it's not in the seam allowance. So I'm going to do mine at about 2 inches. So I'm just making sure that this is even with my markings, as you can see here. Grab my bag tag. And I'm just going to mark out my center points. I'm going to grab my craft knife and then I'm just going to carefully poke these holes in to the back. Add in your prongs. Okay, now that that is done, we can add some duct tape to the back. So I'm just going to grab a piece of duct tape. And add it to the back of my prong so that it doesn't wear out my vinyl. Or, sorry, my waterproof canvas. So go ahead and grab your lining pieces. And we're going to clip these together. And baste these on at 1/8 of an inch. Do the same thing to your other lining piece. Okay, and now we're going to base this at 1/8 of an inch around both of your main panels. Now we're going to do our second one. So we have both of these basted on. So we can set these aside. We're going to grab our zipper. So I'm just going to cut some zipper tape out. Okay, so real quickly, I want to hit my I'm just going to find my lighter so that I can heat set or make sure that this does not unravel. But I can't seem to find it. Oh, there it is. So now that we have these main panels basted onto our linings, we can set these aside because we're going to move on to our zipper. So you're going to want to have your 7-inch zipper along with your number 5 zipper pull, which I did forget to mention at the beginning of the video, but you're going to need a number 5 zipper pull. You're going to get your zipper linings or your exterior zippers, and you're going to want to pull these apart. We're going to put the zipper wrong sides down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my zipper wrong sides down on both of my pieces. And I'm going to go ahead and baste this on. And my zipper is going to be just a tad bit longer. So I'm going to just baste this at 1/8 of an inch, just to hold it in place, and then I can stitch my lining. So I'm going to baste this. And add a couple clips just to hold it in place. I'm going to do the same thing to this side, just to make it easier. Okay. And so like I said, I'm just going to baste this down. Okay. We can do the same thing to our other lining, or our other main zipper. You want to make sure that they're opposite so that when you go to top stitch it, so you want to make sure that your zipper is right sides down. That way, whenever we go to add our lining, whenever we turn it so that they are wrong sides touching, your zipper will come out to the right side. And then we will top stitch this. So. Okay. Okay. So there we go. Now we're just going to put on our lining pieces. Right sides touching. So right sides down. So the right side should be touching. And we're going to sew these on. Okay, so I had a little bit of tension issue. I've got that all figured out. So I unpicked this, and we're going to, I'm just going to top stitch this again like I did before I was having tension issues. So I'm just making sure that this is all nice and straight. Okay, and I'm just going to top stitch this. Just making sure I go into my previous stitch holes that I had. Okay, so that's done, and now I'm going to grab my second zipper, and I'm going to do the same thing, top stitch that at that 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so there we go. Oops. There is my second zipper top stitched. And now we're going to add our zipper pull. Okay, so that is done, and real quickly, I'm gonna do this little hack I've learned from a friend. Her name's Nancy. You'll probably know her. She showed this to us in our testing group, and she just stapled her zipper right at the end within the seam allowance. So I don't have to stitch over that. So that's nice. So now we're going to do our connector. So we're just going to set this aside for now, and we're going to grab our connector piece. So this is my connector piece, and we're going to measure out the center of this, and this is 1 inch, so we're going to measure out a 1/2 inch. And let me zoom y'all in. So I'm just going to zoom y'all in real quickly. And we are going to measure a 1/2 inch right here. So just mark out that 1/2 inch on your connector piece. So 1/2 inch. Grab some double-sided tape. Just dropping everything. Okay. So you can use a 1/4 inch, however, I cannot find my 1/4 inch, so I'm just going to use a 1/2 inch. Peel this off. And you're going to go right to that center. I'll zoom y'all in so y'all can see. So we're just going to go right to that center that we marked out. Do the same thing to the other side, because this is going to measure out a 1/2 inch. I'm just going to use my fingers to press this out. Okay. I'm going to add a clip to the end here. And we are going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch on each side. And we're going to go back down the other side at that 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay. Just trim off this excess. And there we go. Top stitched. And now we're going to slide our D-ring on. So grab your D-ring and slide it like so. And I like to just base this close right here at 1/8 of an inch. And there we go. Basted, and I'm going to place a clip just to kind of hold it and let it form. So you're going to grab your zipper panel piece along with your connector. And you're going to want to place it about a 1/2 inch out from the edge. You want about a 1/2 inch of your connector sticking out. You're going to base this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I have it to where my connector is going to be on the side. My connector is on the side where the zipper is opening. So you would pull the zipper this way to open it, which will be going towards my connector, and closing will be away from it. And then just base this on. So it's basted on here at the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, so now that we have added that connector to our zipper panel, we are now going to grab our gusset piece right here. You're going to grab your lining. And you're going to line it up to the edge. And it's okay if there is, if the lining is just a little bit shorter on the side. Sometimes it just happens whenever with the zipper, depending on your seam allowance. So I'm just going to center this as best as possible. I'm going to add my exterior piece now right on top, lining it up as well. I just want to make sure also that my D-ring is pulled all the way out and not flipped up into the seam allowance. You don't want to accidentally hit that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch this across at 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I'm going to actually add another clip and stitch this at 3/8 of an inch. And right when I get to my connector, I'm going to add a little bit of back stitching just to really reinforce that. So my needle is down right now, and I'm going to pull off my clip, making sure it's still aligned, and I'm going to back stitch again to help reinforce the stitches right there where my connector is at. Okay. So it looks good. Now I'm going to do the same thing where I just center my panel piece right here. Add some clips. Get my exterior and clip it in place. And with this, I want to pull my zipper pull out to the middle here so that I don't get it caught. I'm just going to add a couple clips. This will just help to make sure it doesn't move. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to stitch this at that 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm just making sure that if I need to move or adjust this, that my needle is down so that it doesn't slip out from underneath my foot. Back stitching. And there we go. Now you just want to turn this right sides out, like so. And we are going to top stitch these sides right here. So I'm just going to pull everything to make sure it's all nice and even. I'm going to do the same here. Okay, and now I'm going to top stitch this at 1/8 of an inch on both sides. So I'm going to top stitch here and top stitch here. I'm going to open up my zipper. This will help. I'm just going to open it up like this and put my foot through here so that I can top stitch this. I'm just going to go across at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And now I'm going to do the same thing to the other side. Making sure that I pull this up so that it doesn't get caught. That's top stitched. I'm going to pull or trim down these excess threads here. And now we're going to baste around the edges of our panel. So we're just going to straighten this all out and then baste around on both sides. So I just like to start on the side here. I'm just going to go 1/8 of an inch. all the way around. Make sure that your zipper doesn't get stuck. So I'm just gonna hold my zipper. So we got one side basted on, and now we're gonna do our other side. So same thing, I just like to start right here. Making sure everything is nice and aligned. Okay. So there we go. Now we're going to just place a rivet right here. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. I'm going to grab a long rivet, just because my leather is thick. Okay. I'm just going to set my rivet. My rivet is set. And now I have the round exterior part, or my gusset part, for my wristlet. So now we're just going to find our centers, and what I like to do is I like to just line up these right here. I like to line them up like so, so that they're even. And then I can just make a little snip. Right here. So I got one of my centers marked. Do the same here. Make sure it's all nice and even all the way down. And mark my centers there. You're also going to want to mark your centers on your main panels. I have already done that. So I'm going to turn this wrong sides out like this. And I'm going to match up my top, making sure that if you have a nameplate that it's facing the right way. You don't want to accidentally put it on upside down, which I have done before. So I'm just going to look for my center that I marked right here and match it up to my center here. Oops. I'm just going to start on one side here and really try to ease this into my seam, making sure it's all nice and aligned. Okay, and now I'm going to do the same thing to my other side. I'm going to go from my bottom and just match my edges here. I'm just looking to make sure there's not any like major puckers or anything. There will be some, but those will smooth out like when I go to stitch this. Like it's just the way the leather is, but so now I'm going to staple this. I'm going to staple this just within my seam allowance. And I'm going to grab my heavy duty punch if I can find it. Okay. So this here is just a leather punch that I got from Tandy's. I'm just using it to clip right here on these edges where it's really, really thick. Okay. I'm just going to continue going around here and stapling. Making sure it's all nice and even. If I need to, using my larger stapler. And so how I if you aren't very sure on how to make sure that you see your stapler in order to punch within that seam allowance, what I like to do is I find where my punch or my stapler, where it staples at, which is this line right here. So it gives me a really good guide to see where I need to place the end of my staple. So my stapler staples right here at the edge, and I just kind of measured out 1/8 of an inch, give or take. So if you can see, let me see if I can zoom y'all in. So you can see the mark right there. That's my guide. So when I put this in, I just measure up the edge of my, I guess, bag right here, the raw edge, to that line, and that will give me a punch within my 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I'm just going to line it up here, and then my stapler's out, but yeah. So and then it will just punch staple within that seam allowance. For this one here, it's a little bit different. You can see where my where the staple is, the heavy duty one. So I just kind of eyeball it and just line up this edge here with my seam allowance right here. So I just line it up, and that is where it will punch or staple. So now that this is stapled, we can baste this here at 1/8 of an inch. So I like to have my awl out just to help me get it underneath my foot. So I'm just going to start at the bottom here. And I like to, this here is a staple remover that I got off Amazon, and I'll link it below. But this is really good for getting underneath and pulling out the staple before my foot gets there. So I just stick it underneath, pull out my first staple, and then I will start sewing this. And I like to use my awl just to make sure that it's all even underneath my foot. Just going to place this underneath. And we're just doing this at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I'm just making sure that my needle is down if I need to pull out my staples. now, I'm just going to pull out any remaining staples. Okay. So now you can turn this right sides out if you would like to check to see if you like how it came out. So I'm just going to turn mine. Okay. I think it looks good for now. I'm not too worried right now. There is a little bit, like you can kind of see, but when I put that binding on, it's gonna help make sure that all these edges here pop out, but also I'll be able to make sure it'll be a little bit easier to get a round, even circle. So just want to make sure that everything is even. So I'm just kind of making sure that this goes in a nice circle. Okay. It looks good. It feels perfect. Okay. So now we can add our binding on. So for my binding, I am just using black binding. So I'm just going to open mine. Turn this over. And just start clipping around the edge here just a little bit. actually, here, I'm going to turn this around. So I just clip this top part, and I don't clip the first part first. I don't clip this part here because I can just go around, and then whenever I turn it over, I'll clip it. So I'll show you what I mean. I'm just gonna make sure that I don't have any staples on my machine. So I'm just clearing this all off. And now I'm gonna stitch this right starting here. And I like to stitch mine right close to the first fold. So this one here has you stitch at 1/4 of an inch. That's about, this one here is probably about 3/8 of an inch. Let me see. Yeah, so this is about 3/8 of an inch. So I go a little bit past 1/4 of an inch. I like to try to get just about 1/8 of an inch away from that fold. It just makes it easier to fold. So and I'm going to do this just here on my flatbed. So I'm putting my foot down. All right, and I'm just going to go all the way around, making sure I follow that fold. Just want to grab my awl to help hold it for me. I'm just going to go slow. Getting close to that end. Like I said, I'm just making sure it's all nice and even. stitching. Okay. There we go. And now I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to cut this. Now we're just going to turn it so that it folds over nicely. And this is where I like to clip. I'm just going to clip all the way around. So now I'm just going to clip all this around. Okay. So I have it clipped. And now I'm going to, on this side, I'm going to stitch at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance here. Starting at my top. Oops. Making sure you don't accidentally break a clip. Okay. Make sure it catches. This one didn't catch right here on the edge, so I'm just going to go back real quickly and go over that. So there we go. And now you can turn this through to see how you like it. Looks good to me. And we can turn this out. And now we're going to do the same thing to our other side. We're going to bind it. So grab your second exterior piece. And we are going to clip it on, matching your centers. And we're going to clip it and staple it. Okay, so now that we're done with our binding, we're going to turn it right sides out to see what it looks like finished. So just carefully push it through, making sure not to accidentally pop your zipper. Just to help push everything out. So I'm going to set this aside. And now we can work on our strap. So like I said, my strap is going to be just a tad bit different because I am doing it double-sided. I'm not going to do the fold over because my leather is super thick. So I'm just going to try and find my 1/4-inch tape, which I cannot seem to remember where I stuck it. Here we go. So I'm gonna grab my 1/4-inch tape right here. And I'm just going to eyeball it going right down the center of one of my pieces. And then just going to just line this up as best as I can. So there we go. And I'm going to, so this is about, this is 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to top stitch this at about 1/4 of an inch on each side. And do the same thing to my other side here. So it is now stitched at 1/4 of an inch, and I'm going to cut this down at 1/8 of an inch on each side. Okay, so I'm going to add on my swivel clasp here. And I'm going between these two D-rings or these swivel clasps. I think I'm going to go with this more squared one. No, I don't really like how it fits. Okay, so we're just going to go with this one. Add it on. Let's see. Okay, so just going to rivet right here in the center. Just going to put a hole on my first one. I'm just eyeballing it. And then I will place a second. So there we go. I got my 3 holes in place. I'm going to grab a long rivet post here. I'm just going to place it in. So I have my rivet in place and I'm going to set it. And there we go. So now I have my strap. So here we have the beautiful Mini Magda leather. And I'm just going to really make sure that I stuff this, especially right here in this corner. You want to make sure that any parts that aren't pushed out all the way, I'm just going to stuff it a little bit more so that it pushes it out. That way it's nice and round. So there we go. I absolutely love it. So cute. So thank you everybody for joining me. I will post all the links in the bottom along with my affiliate link to grab this pattern by Oro Rosa. It's a really great scrap buster. Like, I was able to use a lot of my scrap pieces for these. And that's nice because I hoard my scrap pieces. So thank you everybody. See you later. Bye.